This is my 1977 Datsun 280Z and we're turning this into a safari car. Last episode we set a baseline on the car to see exactly what we are starting with and managed to rebuild the suspension both in the front and rear, addressed a ton of deferred maintenance with some worn steering components, along with fitting a new set of all-terrain tires and wheels. In this episode we are addressing our last bullet point, making this look cool but also functional. We're going to try and achieve this by upgrading the lighting, the underbody protection with the skid plate, and build a mounting solution for some mud flaps. And in the end, we'll test it all out and see how well we did. Alright, we find ourselves back underneath here yet again, but this time to fabricate a skid plate. Now, there are some aftermarket skid plates that are modeled after the original one, but they don't actually protect enough of what I want, and they're kind of expensive for what you get. So we're stuck making our own. Now I've got two pieces of material here that I think we can actually make something out of. Big piece is this. I've got a sign and fire rescue emergency access only. Guys, this is good stuff. It's pretty thick and it's literally on the side of the road, free for your taking. You know, grab as many of these as you need. And for legal reasons, that's a joke. I did not do that. The other thing is this. This is actually a little arrow shield from a 86 300ZX. That one is no longer with us, rest in peace, and it's not being used, so maybe we can do something with it. And I think I've already caught my eye on what I want it to do. Now on the 300ZX, this is the original orientation. It would be somewhere like this, but I think perfect use case is this. Look at that. We even have these little ears that go on the side here. That's on both sides, covers perfectly. And then we have to figure out how we're going to mount the back, but I think that's the least of our worries right now. This thing is, I think, going to go this way, and of course, because this is plastic, this isn't metal, so we shouldn't really have any issues of this tearing a hole or wearing a hole into the aluminum. Okay, that's how it looks like now. A little bit better. Obviously, there is a lot of metal that is missing, and it has just turned into rust, and it is all down here. Yeah, that's a good amount of rust. And of course, you can see why I did that now. I'm holding it up. You can see that that ridge goes between the radiator support and the radiator to help stop anything coming in. With a loose plan together to protect the radiator, let's start thinking about the oil pan. I'm legally obligated to make the joke about this being cardboard aided design, so with that out of the way, we'll first cut down the cardboard to our starting shape. Luckily for us, the 280Z is really simple, so a flat rectangle is a good start. Except it's maybe too simple. We only have two threaded holes in the cross member to use to mount, so we'll have to get a little bit more creative to mount the rear, but we're about that later. The only thing in the way right now is the exhaust pipe, which is simple enough to clearance. We'll paint marks and bolts and thread them into the holes to transfer their position on the cardboard. Now we can mock up how the skid plate will sit with the front splash shield as well. And enough overlap that should stay in place. With the mock-up success, we can go ahead and make our marks on the sign, cut out and clearance for the exhaust, and draw out the mounting holes. This looks really good. Now we just have to figure out how to mount the back, and this is going to be a little controversial, so be sure to leave a comment on why this is a bad idea. I'm going to use the hole here in the bottom of the transmission. No bolt goes through there, or at least not yet, and it's at the perfect spot to be used. I originally thought to use both on each side, but decided against it. The plan is to create an L-shaped bracket to drop down from that hole and onto the skid plate. I'm only going to use the one hole because using both I think wouldn't allow enough flex. The problem is the front is solidly mounted to the subframe, which hopefully shouldn't move. However, engine and transmission will move, given that these are the original mounts, probably a little too much. We need to make sure that there's enough flex in the mounting solution to A, not break the skid plate, and B, more importantly, not break the transmission. Luckily, I have perfectly engineered this aluminum bracket to be weaker than the transmission and to act as a sacrificial part. Also to help, I 3D printed some TPU bushings, so it'll have some flex when mounted. And here it is, all mounted up, and if anything, it offers more protection than nothing, which is what we're after.
Hey, don't lick that.
It may also have some aerodynamic benefits as well, but I don't have a wind tunnel to prove it, so it's a nice thought. It's so bright. Okay, so lights came in, and I'm thinking I want to actually use this bumper. So many people get rid of these bumpers, but I'm telling you, it's actually a pretty good step stool. You can sit on it. And I think we can use it to mount the lights. So I think I want the lights around here, you know, on the inside of the turn signal, so you can, you know, see. I was just taking a peek, and actually right behind here is a perfectly placed, there's a bolt right here, a 12mm bolt, and I think we can make a bracket that gets this forward just a little bit to clear the bumper and to clear the hood. And I think here it's gonna look good. I don't want to fabricate nearly anything on this. I want this to be just, you know, bolt on, bolt off, easily reversible. And I have a perfect piece of scrap metal in mind to use. And it's right there behind the camera. Let's go check it out. Okay, as I was saying, this is the perfectly good piece of scrap metal just right here. Okay, safety squints engaged. Okay, the camera overheated at the same time I'm overheating, and I managed to strip the threads on the little mounting hole that I wanted to use. So took the bumper off, got it mocked back up, and this is what I think it's going to look like. I think it's going to look pretty cool. Now we just got to test fit the hood because the hood hinges forward, so let's try that out. Yeah, it's not going to work. Okay, I managed to get the hole a little bit lower than I expected, but now let's make sure this thing clears before I celebrate. And there's one other issue that I can already see. Oh yeah, plenty of space. Okay, the next issue that some of you may have noticed is that this bumper is actually on a curve. The headlights point straight, but this light is pointing this way. So we need to get it to point that way. So I'm just thinking like that. Done. But now I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side and clean up these brackets, paint them, make them look a little bit nicer, and then we'll see finished product. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Sick. Normal lights, fogs. All right, these lights have come together really, really well, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out. They look sick, and they look like they're going to project a really good amount of light and really help out this front end with the lighting situation, because it wasn't too good before. So now we're going to go ahead and focus on the next part to make this thing look good, because that's what it's all about, which is mud flaps. Obviously, every single rally safari car has a set of mud flaps. That means we can't go without them. I've got these off of a Datsun 620 or a 720 pickup from a junkyard like 10 years ago. I thought these just were cool because it said Datsun on them, and I had no plan to do anything with them. So, but now we're gonna do something. So we're gonna go ahead, slap these on. These are not gonna have anywhere just to mount originally. As far as I know, there's no original mounting locations for any sort of mud flaps for these. So we're gonna have to custom make some brackets, get a little creative, but I don't think it's gonna be too bad. You know, main issue is just gonna be trying to get them even and level. So make sure that they're at the proper height, and then, you know, proper level sticking out. So, but after that, we're gonna call it done, and then we can go take this thing on a test drive, which I'm really excited for.
Let's start with the passenger side, since that's the easiest. The panel here is actually removable, so I'm willing to drill some holes into it. After making some marks for where we want the flap to sit, we can then take the panel over the bench and drill out our mounting locations. Now we can bolt up the flap directly to the panel, reinstall it, and check our fitment, which I think is pretty good. With the easy side done, it's also time to get a little bit more creative. Just like the skid plate, I'm going to be using some cardboard to create a template for a bracket spanning from the exhaust hanker stud to the outer lip of the fender. The muffler is kind of large, which fouls on the mud flap, causing it to not sit perfectly level, but I'm not buying a new exhaust, so we're going to just deal with it. I'm cutting out the bracket from a scrap piece of panel cut from the old body of that 300ZX, so it continues to live on. Bracket aligns up pretty well. However, this hole is really close to this edge, and I want to expand it out to use an M6 piece of hardware. I know I didn't want to put any holes in the body, but I don't want to put any more holes in the body. This one's already here.
Damn, from here, it looks so good. I'm sure you guys want to see it. So let's take this car out of the garage and get a good look at it. Of course, I kind of trapped it in with trash, so we got to clean that up first.
This build is a total riot. 280Zs aren't supposed to look like this, but I'm really happy that it does. On the road, this drives way better than expected. The chunky sidewall and new suspension really soaks up any bumps you may encounter and rides really smoothly. Oh my god. I was concerned about having a 205 section with tire and no power steering, and in tight spaces you do notice it takes a little bit more effort, but on the road there's no issues. The gearing is also a lot better now that the tires are taller, and I notice that I'm not shifting as often and not revving it out nearly as much as I was before. Highway driving is comfortable besides the seats being worn out, And on the test drive on the same route as our baseline, I averaged 29 mpg, a 3 mpg increase from baseline, most likely due to the better highway gearing and maybe some aero benefits with the skid plates. Although now it sits at the perfect exhaust drone RPM at 75 miles an hour, which got annoying pretty fast. The tires are also surprisingly quiet for all terrains and don't transmit a ton of road noise. And of course, in the twisties, we still have a super fun car. The stiffer springs really help control the body, and everything feels like it's tightened up, and I like to think that the strut bars are helping out. You do, however, feel the extra weight in the wheels. With aggressive braking, it really feels like it has to work so much harder just because of the additional rotational mass. In part 1, I described one potential issue, which was increased positive camber because of the additional ride height. And it came true. After the alignment, we have about 1.5 degrees of positive camber in the front. Under aggressive turn-in, I do feel the front end grip starts to waver, most likely because of that positive camber. There is a way to fix that, and maybe I'll do it in a future episode. It also may be the tires. After all, these are 600 treadwear and all-terrains, obviously not made for performance driving, so maybe we're just finding the limit faster. Off-road and on a trail is actually really impressive. The 280Z is light and floats over most bumps, and with the tires aired down just a little bit, it really helps absorb and smooth out that roughness. The big question, how much taller is the ride height? Well, in the front we now have 11 inches of ground clearance between the radiator support and the ground compared to our baseline of 6. And in the rear, the center of bumper to ground measurement went from 17 to 19.5 inches, and the same measurement is now 20 inches in the front. If we were to compare this to a stock vehicle, which would be 18 inches ride height, we gained 2 inches over stock in the front and 1.5 in the rear, which is more than I expected. Knowing this now really gives me the confidence I need to be quite ambitious off-road, along with the knowledge that I have some underbody protection. It has so far worked very well, and in the several hundred miles I've put on it, it's not broken or fallen off. Obviously, any car can go off-road if you're brave enough, but this 280Z just eats up fire roads like this and keeps asking for more. As for other cool factor modifications, the halo lights really do help light up the road and help with nighttime driving. It even came in handy, allowing me to spot a deer jumping in the road from the bushes after I was done filming this clip. The mud flaps are doing their job, helping protect the body from all the roost we're throwing out, and of course, looking cool. Overall, I'm really surprised with how this turned out, and just proves it's possible to have fun on a budget, and that for me at least, there's no need to spend thousands of dollars on suspension setup and accessories. Am I actually going to run this car through the Safari? No, I'm just running through these Appalachian hills and I'm having a blast doing it. Whatever you do, make sure you're having fun as well.
Well, I'm really happy with how this 280Z has turned out. It's exceeded all my expectations. Now, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, make sure to drop a comment down below and subscribe in the future, because I think I'm going to take this on a rallycross. You know, David did it in his BMW, so we're going to see if this thing can survive as well. So besides that, let us know we're doing a good job by liking the video and subscribe, share with anyone else you think would enjoy it. And besides that, thanks for watching.